Back onto a new video in my home automation series, and this is going to be a little bit of a rushed and impromptu video because I just received an email that the release date of the Sonoff Matter Mini has been communicated, and it's the 15th of August. So that's going to be next week. Is it next week? Yeah, it's going to be next week, but I'm going to be on holiday. So I wanted to quickly record that so I can get this information out to you. And well, besides just communicating this, there has been a lot of changes since I made a video on this guy a couple of weeks ago, because there has been a software update, and what they have promised to deliver in the beginning of August was actually done. So the way this Sonoff device works now is they manage, so Sonoff managed to mush the eWeLink application and a Matter compatible device together. So what I can do now is I can control it from the eWeLink application, and I can control it as a Matter device directly from my Nest Hub. And you might think that, what's the point of that? I could do these with separate devices. Why would I need for this? I think the reason this is important, because what they managed to do here is that you can use your Matter compatible network to control it as just a switch, turning it on and off, make sure that it's available in your, let's say, HomeKit application or your Google Home application. But then some of the features that are not available in those applications, because those are not specified or supported by Matter, you can just configure them in the eWeLink application. So for example, normally, if you have a normal switch, you turn it on and it comes on, and then you click again and then it goes off. But now I have configured in the eWeLink that this is a type of switch which automatically turns off, in this case after 5 seconds. But you can configure it for, let's say, 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You put it in your pantry, you go in, you turn it on, and then it would automatically turn itself off like a built-in timer. So that's what they managed to do. And they also, with this eWeLink, the integration and the eWeLink app, the device itself can also auto-update. So if there will be any new features in the future, it will automatically update it, even if you're not using the eWeLink application at all. Maybe you just do the initial setup, and then you hook it up with your Matter compatible Google, Alexa, HomePod device, and you would only use that. The eWeLink will make sure that it would receive the software updates. So in this video, I'm going to talk about all of these, probably just give an overview on this device for those who are joining here for the first time, and then I'm going to show you how it works in the apps, and how you set up, and what is the function that you get with this. And as I mentioned before, this video is a little bit rushed, or I was in a time constraint. So I wanted to just focus on the things that I think it's new from my last video, and sort of like new to this device and interesting about this device. But definitely I probably could have missed something. So if you have any questions, just leave them down in the comment section that I will answer. And obviously if there are some common questions, I can just follow it up in sort of like in a more detailed video. But this is probably going to be detailed enough, just if you look at the time itself. And again, what I wanted to just sort of like emphasize is, what I mentioned in the previous video, is with Matter you have obviously a standard specification which says that in Matter, a switch is something which can receive commands to turn on or turn off, and it would also report the status if if it's turned on and off, but probably nothing else. So if you are a manufacturer and you're starting to manufacture these devices, then you can't really differentiate yourself in terms of software functionality. Again, this is how I understand the whole Matter and the specification, because the specification says that this is what you can do, this is how you can define the device. So so I think this is Sonoff's way to add functionality to the device, but have those functionality sort of configured in a non-Matter application, because that's where they can control the device, they can add additional functionalities, and then just have Matter to deal with the sort of the generic tasks and and allow the device to be integrated in a Matter network, which could be otherwise possible, but in some cases it wouldn't be possible. So, I was able to add this device to my, and all of my Sonoff devices to my Google Home using an integration, but I would probably not be able to do it if I would have a HomeKit. But now you can add this to your HomeKit as a Matter device and it would just work. So that's great. So first of all, for those who are seeing this for the first time, so this is a small smart Wi-Fi smart switch, which is designed to go behind your normal old-style lamp switch, and it can receive the input from your physical switch, and then it can also be controlled over some sort of smart home application. So it has all the terminals to receive power, and in my case this is my incoming mains, which goes into the neutral and the live in, and then into the another neutral and the live out. I can power my light switch. I mean, this is just a simple lamp or something else. And I have two other terminals here, S1 and the S2. This is where I connect my switch, and that switch can be a normal toggle switch or just a push button, because you can configure this device to tell it what sort of switch you are connecting to it, how it should treat the various signals that it's receiving. And if you don't know anything about the Sonoff system, you can just buy this and use it as a Matter compatible device on its own. So you unbox it, you hook it up, you give it power, and you can add it to your Google Nest Hub, your Apple HomePod, or your Alexa Smart Hub, and it would just work. Yeah. But if you are an eWeLink user, you can add it to your eWeLink application as well, along with all your other eWeLink devices, and this is where you get all these additional functions that I talked about. And then once that is done, you can also enable the Matter commissioning as well. And then besides using it in the eWeLink application, you can add it to your Matter device as well. And actually, let me give you a taste of how it works. So if I start my eWeLink application, now you can see, okay, we just have to wait until it boots. But so this is my Matter Mini, and I can control it from here, and you can see that the lamp comes on. But I can do the same from my home application here, and I probably need to look for these. I have configured this as a kettle, so it doesn't get colored with all my lights, but I can control it from here as well, and you can see it turns on and off. And if I can turn on here, and if I come to the eWeLink application, it gets turned on here, and it switches itself off because that's the additional functions that I configured. So it works seamlessly in both of the applications, eWeLink and a Matter compatible application. And of course, if you are trying to build a Matter network, you can just sort of forget the eWeLink part. You will get this additional functionality, but then you can just you keep using your HomeKit or Alexa app or the Google Home app. And just to tell you that, I mean, within the Google Home app, I can't really do anything with this, device other than, turning it on and turning it off. And if I go into the settings, then you can see that I can just name it. I can select the device type, but that's just basically just the icon that appears in the application. So it just helps you distinguish from all your other smart switches. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There are no additional configuration settings here to configure additional functionality, timers, whatever. I mean, you don't configure the timers here, but you don't get additional functionality like power on state and the inching, the auto power function. So this is why you also add it to your eWeLink application. So if I go back here, you can see that I can create schedules and timers. So I can just a normal thing like I want 2 days of the week this device to turn on at 22:49, and if I save it, it's just going to happen. And then your Google Home is not going to know anything about this. I mean, I can configure similar functionality in Google Home as well, so probably this is not the best example to show. But if you let me just to go through these things that I have here, I mean, I can also create a timer. So if I turn it on, I can just automatically configure it to turn off. And I can also create these loop timers, which, yeah, I don't understand why they were added, but again, this is something that Sonoff is been supplying with all their smart switches. But I think the real thing is actually here in the settings. So if I click on the three dots, you can see that I'm using version 1.1, and I have also enabled the automatic updates. So between 2 and 4 a.m. it will update itself if there is a software update. But then the real thing is actually here. So I can configure the inching settings. So at the moment it is configured that whenever I turn it on, it will turn itself off automatically after 2 seconds. And you can change its timing, and you can change whether it's auto off or auto on. And if I turn it off, then it just behaves like a regular switch. So I turn it on, oops, and sorry. And it's just going to stay on. Okay. But then I have some of the other functions here, for example, the power on state. So this would remember what this would configure, what state the device should come on if, let's say, if there is a power loss. Again, if you are trying to connect something to it which normally should be on, you would leave this as on. So even if there's a power cut, it would just come back on and it will stay on. But again, you can configure a delay here. It's like, okay, I want this device to come on, but with a 3-minute delay. It's not a big deal, but there could be some circumstances if you have a lot of devices and maybe you have a poor grid, or you are running an off-grid setup, or some battery backup. You don't want all your devices to come on at the same time, so you can just configure some sort of delay. But I'm just going to leave it in the off state at the moment. And I also mentioned that you can configure whether you want the switch which is connected to these last 2 terminals, which I haven't connected now, whether you want this to, edge mode. So that would be the mode when you have a normal sort of like rocker switch, or you can have the pulse mode, which is like more like if you just use it as a push button. So you push it once and then the light comes on, you push it again and the light goes off. So again, you can use it in various different modes, and you also have this detach relay option. So it will basically act like a switch which is completely separated from the relay inside. And you could use this function if you need some, some additional logic that you want to implement and not rely on the button immediately turning the relay on. So these are some of the additional things besides this push notification and the offline alert that it's only available in the eWeLink because that's not part of the Matter standard or the Matter specification. So, and as you can see, even if you configure these in your eWeLink app, when you are controlling it from your Matter device or your Matter network voice command, the Matter app, Matter compatible app, it will keep those functionality and it will act accordingly. So you have seen it previously how I enabled the inching setting, and even when I was operating the switch from my Google Home app, it would automatically turn itself off. And this is a functionality you would not be able to do just in Matter unless you also specify some sort of additional logic within your Google Home app. But if you do it this way, it's not really your application. It's not really your Matter network, which is managing all these extra functionality, but that's something which runs on the device itself. So hopefully this is going to give you an idea how this eWeLink and Matter coexistence is going to basically create additional functionality or enable additional functionality for this simple Matter switch, which otherwise wouldn't be possible just using the Matter standard. Okay, so let me explain also the initial setup of this device. So if you want this, eWeLink and Matter compatible or Matter coexistence, then you need to follow the steps that I'm explaining here. If you don't need the eWeLink, you just want to buy this Sonoff device because it could be cheaper than some of the other Matter compatible switches, then you can just follow the normal Matter pairing mode because you can just add it to your Matter network. There is a QR code on the other side of the device, which I can show here. So when you pair with when you want to pair it to the the Matter network, you can read that QR code and it would just complete the commissioning. So for this coexistent configuration, first what you need to do is you need to add it to your eWeLink application first. And by the way, your eWeLink application also needs to be at a certain version. So you can see that the current version is 4.35.0, so it has to be at least that. So that's the latest release, which came out on the 8th of August. And the eWeLink setup is exactly the same as all the other Sonoff Minis and the Mini Extreme and the Zigbee Mini, and basically you have this button here, the pairing button. So you push it for 5 seconds until this small LED starts flashing quickly, and then you click on the plus button and you select the Bluetooth pairing. So this is one of those new devices which does the Bluetooth pairing. And you just follow the on-screen instructions. So it's going to, ask you your Wi-Fi SSID and the password, and the name of the device is going to show up, which I think in my case was like CK underscore and something. And you just add it to your device, or you give it a name, and it gets added to your network. So it's going to look something like this. And at this point, it's just going to act like just another Sonoff device. And probably there is going to be a version update, so I think probably the best idea is to update the current version. So you come here, it's going to show you what is the newest version, so you just click on that and you just wait for a few minutes until the update is complete. And you can, if you already know some of these things like the inching setting, the power on state, you can just configure them right away. And also, you can choose to enable the automatic updates, so you don't have to come back to the eWeLink application in the future. So you can just forget about it. So with this, the eWeLink part of the setup should be complete. And then you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the screen, and then you go to this enable pairing mode. And that starts the second part of the pairing. So what is going to happen now is, now it's going to give you a QR code, which is different from the QR code which is on the back of the device, and it also has a code. So if you have two phones, you can, leave this phone in this screen and use another phone to complete the pairing on, let's say the Matter commissioning another phone, and then you can just read this QR code which is appearing on the screen, or you can use the code as well. So you just click here, it says copy code, and it's going to copy the code into the clipboard. Yeah, and then you go to your Matter compatible application. In my case, it's the Google Home, but again, this can be HomeKit or the Alexa app. And I can do here plus a new device, and you select your home, and then it's going to search for devices because it's trying to search for some Chromecast and that sort of stuff. So now it says that it found a mini, but I think it says that because I already have that set up. So let me just select a different device, because this is the screen that you will get after like 10-15 seconds, and then you say that you want to add a Matter enabled device, and that's when you can scan the QR code. And normally you would scan the QR code, but here you can select, well, if you are using another phone, then you can scan that QR code which is in the eWeLink application, or you can select the setup without a QR code, and then that's where you paste in the pairing code that you have received in the eWeLink application. And with that, you follow the the on-screen instructions. So it's going to just ask you a name and the room where it is, and then the device should be added. And after that, the device is going to appear in your application. And well, for me, for Google Home, I can just long press on this to get into sort of the details. And I went into the setup screen, and for example, I was able to change the device type. Again, the only reason I did that because I have a couple of other lights in the room as well. And if you select the device type as light, then by default, all the lights are going to be grouped together, and I just wanted to have it as a separate button, so I clicked cattle. So you can see that the fact that it's cattle, it's now showing in a separate icon here, as opposed to the lights which are all grouped here. So if I double click, you can see it's actually two different lights, but normally you just get one button and then you operate both of them at the same time. So that's it. It's not that difficult. It's definitely some extra steps, but this is the only way how you can get the additional functionalities. If you don't need that, you can just go ahead and then commission it in your Matter network straight away. You always have to do eWeLink first and Matters second. It doesn't work the other way around, because if you are in the Matter network first and you want to add it to the Sonoff network, then you have to just long press this button to get into pairing mode. But at that point, it's just going to forget the Matter linkage, and it would just sort of like reset the device. I tried that way as well and it didn't work. So you have to do the eWeLink first. That's how they designed this. So I think that would be in a not so nutshell summary of what's new and how it's going to work if you decide to purchase it. If you are interested, I'm going to leave purchasing links down in the video description. But I think that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.